Chapter 2 Storming the Castle, Lord Camelot. Kyo's mind swirled with kaleidoscope of images and emotions as he witnessed the Battle of Camelot. The clash of swords, the cries of warriors, and the weight of destiny bore down on his consciousness. Amidst the chaos of the battlefield, he witnessed the valiant figure of Artoria Pendragon, the glorious king of knights facing up against her own strange daughter Modred, the treacherous knight of rebellion. Kyo started sprinting towards them. "Stop!" Kyo yelled, his voice filled with desperation and sorrow. "Your family. This is not what you both want." But before his words could reach Artoria and Modred, a sudden shift occurred. Kyo found himself in Modred's position, holding Rungomniet tightly in his hands. His heart raced, his breathing quickened, and the weight of the spear felt heavy in his grasp, and his mind was overwhelmed with conflicts emotions. As he looked into Artoria's pained eyes and heard groaning, Kyo's entire being trampled down to his very soul. The sight before him was unbearable, and the realization of what he has done broke him. He watched in disbelief as Artoria, now standing before him, coughed blood and yelling, "Why?" repeatedly. Tears streamed down Kyo's face as he struggled with the weight of his hallucinations, a guilt threatening to consume him. He wanted to turn back time, to undo the tragedy that had unfolded before him. In that moment of despair, Kyo's anguish reached its peak. The dream world shattered and the image of Artoria dissolves into mud, leaving him standing alone in a desolated void. The echoes of her pained cries lingered in his ears, a constant reminder of the consequences of his actions. Gasping for breath, Kyo woke up, his body drenched in sweat. The nightmare had ended, but the weight of the experience remained heavy on his heart. As Kyo's racing heart gradually calmed down, he took a few deep breaths to steady himself. The nightmare had left him, shaken, and he wouldn't help but question the significance of the disturbing vision he had just experienced. Lost in thought, Kyo's attention was drawn to Boudica. Approaching him, a worried expression echoing on her face, she held a cup of tea, her caring nature evident in her gestures. Concerned for his well-being, she gently offered him the warm beverage. "Kyo, are you all right?" Boudica asked, her voice filled with genuine concern. "Is everything okay?" Kyo nodded, accepting the cup of tea. The comforting aroma wafted through the air, momentarily soothing his troubled mind. He took a sip, savoring the familiar warmth that began to settle his nerves. I had a nightmare," Kyo finally spoke, his voice still laced with the remnants of unease. "It was about Lady Arturia. I killed her." Baudica's eyes widened as she listened attentively. Baudica's expression softened. Her hand reached out to gently grasp Kyo's body. She understood the weight of guilt and the turmoil it could create within. Dreams can sometimes be windows into our deepest fears and conflicts. Boudica spoke softly, her voice carrying a comforting tone. "But remember, Kyo, dreams are not always reflections of reality. They are canvas where our subconscious tries to make sense of our emotions." "I understand. Thank you, Lady Boudica." Sipped his tea, letting his warmth seep into his soul. Is Benny, Enma, and Tamamo Cat not with you?" he asked. "They left to the other side to gather supplies. They'll be back later," she answered. "I see. I'm going to take a walk. Thanks for the tea, Lady Vodka." After drinking his tea, Kyo wiped away the sweat from his body, still shaken by the haunting nightmares he had just experienced. Determined to clear his mind, he made his way outside, feeling the cold breeze brush against his face as he walked. Unbeknownst to him, Leonard appeared on a holographic screen, ever watchful and concerned, monitoring his physical and mental health from her observation screen. As she analyzed the data, a furrow formed on her brow, worrying etching itself onto her features. "Boudica, what happened?" "Kyo's readings are off the charts. He had a nightmare about Arturia, the Celtic Queen," replied Leonard's concerned expression darkening as she listened to Boudica's response. The mention of Kyo's unusual readings and his nightmares about Arturia made her uneasiness. As Kyo walked, his mind was consumed by the vivid images of the nightmare. The sight of Arturia's fighting Margaret, his own hands holding Rongmyongyent, and the anguished cries of Her Majesty echoed in his mind. He couldn't shake out the feeling of a bad omen. Lost in the thoughts, Kyo found himself standing near the edge of a cliff, overlooking the vast expanse before him. He took a seat at the edge in the deep breath. That nightmare. It rarely happens from time to time, but this one was way too real. Kyo, are you alright? Did you have that nightmare again? Ark said, concerned. The fairy flopped herself on the top of his head. No, Ark, I am not okay. The nightmare, it was suffocating. Kyo admitted, his voice trembling with delirious emotions. I saw myself wielding Rongomliant, and I killed Her Majesty. The pain and sorrow in her eyes were unbearable. I can't shake off the guilt I feel. Dreams are powerful reflections of emotions. Nightmares come from fears and anxieties. Ark said, her voice filled with warmth. But they don't defy who you are. You are not the actions of your nightmare, Kyo. But does it mean something if it is the same nightmare repeating? Kyo questioned, a mix of fear and uncertainty. Ark smiled gently. It means that you care deeply about Arturia, and that fear of losing her is a part of you, but it doesn't mean you are destined to harm her. Your heart is pure, and you have shown great compassion and courage. No, it is not, he whispered. Did you say something? The fairy questioned. I said it is rare that you are being nice, the boy retorted. Of course I am nice. I am a supporter, after all. What are you going to do now? She said. In the distance from Kyo's location stood Camelot, the kingdom of the Knights of the Round Table and their king. It had been a long time since I talked with Her Majesty, let alone trained with her and the others, but every time I go there, they all say the same thing, that she is busy, or she has gone somewhere else. I am going back to my world later, and I do not want our relationship to continue like this. Determined to do what he must, Kyo got up and made his way to Camelot. Kyo, Leonard began, her voice tinged with a mixed care and resolve. I've been thinking about your time here. You have grown so much over the years, but I worry that if you do not go back to your own world, you will soon stagnate, unable to grow as a human. Kyo's face darkened a little. I had a feeling that this is what you wanted to talk about, Leonardo. So return to my own world, then what? Live. Live for the life that you want. Make friends, go to school, fall in love. This is a second chance. Understand that there is more to life than just becoming stronger, she said to the boy. As Leonard spoke to Kyo about returning to this world, to living a normal life, she couldn't help but notice a sudden shift in his demeanor. His once calm and composed expression twisted a little into something more sinister, and a chilling aura seeps out from him, muttering incoherent words. Alarmed by the sudden change, Leonardo stood up, shocked. But after that, Kyo was normal. What is it, Leonardo? He spoke. It's nothing, she said nervously. Leonardo hesitated for a moment, her mind still reeling from the unexpected shift in Kyo's behavior. Was that real? It couldn't have been an hallucination. She decided not to press further about it, at least not at this moment. Well, I think it's about time I head back to my workshop. I know this is a big change for you, but you don't have to worry about anything. I had sent someone over to the other side to help you to get reaccustomed to your world. Trust me, you'll be fine. As Leonardo was about to leave, Are you sure that you are all right, Leonardo? Kyo asked. I am fine, just a little tired. Rest well, Kyo. Leonardo left the living quarters. Tired? Spirits don't get tired, or have the need to eat or sleep for the matter. Strange. Standing there, he realized that he was close to Camelot's great wall, a majestic and imposing structure that guarded the kingdom. As he approached the wall, Kyo couldn't help but feel a mixture of excitement and trepidation. The last time he was here, he had trained with Arturia and the Knights of the Round Table, but now he was on a different mission, to find Her Majesty. Kyo used his presence concealment to sneak past the guards at the gate and soon found himself within the walls of Camelot. The castle stood tall and majestic in the distance, a beacon of power and authority. Moving silently through the castle grounds, Kyo's heart raced with every step. He was determined, but he also knew that he had to be cautious. There were many guards, and he couldn't afford to be caught. Quickly sprinting through the grounds, he reached the main castle door. Not wanting to alert anyone by opening it, he decided to go in another way. Going along the wall, the boy overheard voices coming from the high-off window. His keen ears picked up on a faint voices drifting from through the air. The voices were coming from a window high above him, indicating that a conversation was taking place in a ground room. Kyo leaped from the ledge to ledge. Scaling the wall, he reached the window and entered the throne room. He jumped to the closest supporting beam, hearing the group of people that are meeting among the round table. "And that is it for my report," said the young maidens, wielding a giant lance. "Thank you, Lady Gareth. You may stand down. If no one has anything else to report, this meeting has ended." "Yes," the blond young man wielding the holy sword. "I have something to say, and it does not concern everyone here," said the white-haired man, wearing a red coat. "You may speak, Sir Shiro," said the holy king. Kyo. He is returning to his world by the end of the day. Shiro's words echoed silence as falling into the room. Grrr, are you fucking kidding me? For 8 years we had to avoid Kyo for his sake, banished him from Camelot, and now you are telling us he is going back? Said the blonde female knight with a fiery temper, she pounding the table with her fist. Calm yourself, Lady Margaret. You are a knight in the presence of the king, said the man in a black armor. I apologize, your majesty. Forgive me for that sudden outburst. And this one as well. Shut the fuck up, Agravain. You are the one that was very adamant about Kyo being exiled. Even before father was. Before Margaret finished her sentence, the red-haired man started pulling the strings on his bow, his movements rhythmic and deliberate. The room was filled with melancholic melodies, the sound of a harp resonating through the air. I'm so sad, he said while continuing to play amidst the melodic lament. He abruptly stopped playing. It seems that there is a rat upon the rafter, he said, his voice calm but alert. In one swift motion he pulled the strings on his bow and threw it back, his aim directed at the ceiling above. Kyo prepared to jump from the spot he was in. A sharp twang filled the air as he released, slicing through the space where Kyo had been hiding in the support beams. The room fell into stunned silence as the air was hit with a blue light, inches from its intended target. You dare enter the holy grounds of Camelot. Revere yourself, said the man with purple hair and silver armor. Knowing that he has been discovered, Kyo dropped down from the ceiling, landing on the opposite side of the throne room. He dusted himself off. Yo, everyone, said with a nervous grin. Surprised with the revelation of the intruder, they all shout out, Kyo! Kyo kneeled on the floor. Greetings, your majesty, Arthur Pendragon. It has been a long time, he said, showing respect for the king of Camelot. Arthur regarded Kyo with a warm smile, a glint of recognition in his eyes. Indeed, it has been some time, Kyo, he responded, his voice holding a gentle quality, and in that time you have grown into a fine young man. Kyo's heart swelled with a mixture of emotions at Arthur's words. The compliment from the legendary king held a weight that he couldn't ignore, and he met Arthur's gaze with a gratitude. Thank you, King Arthur, Kyo said sincerely. It's an honor. The rest of the knights, Lancelot, Mordred, Garrett, Gawain, Bedivere, Tristan, Perceval, and Galahad gathered around the boy. As they take a look at him, they conversed with each other. Laughter was heard among them, praising on how much the boy grew. As the knights gathered around Kyo, his heart swelled with a mixture of emotions. The collective recognitions and acknowledgement from these legendary figures filled him with a sense of joy, reconnecting with them. His smile remained, his eyes holding a depth of understanding. You've undergone training and challenges that have shaped you, he continued. Your growth as both a warrior and a person is evident. Kyo nodded, a sense of pride welling within him. I've learned so much during my time here, he admitted, and I owe a great deal of that to the guidance he teaches to every one of my masters. Kyo, you know that you're not supposed to be here without being summoned, Galahad interjected. I know, but something important came up and I need to resolve it, the boy said. Their conversations lingered in the air for a moment, the unspoken connection between them. Why are you here? Agravian's voice cut through the air, his words sharp and leaden with disdain. His gaze was fixed on Kyo, his features contorted with evident displeasure. Kyo rose from his kneeling position, his expression composed despite the sudden tension. I have come to Camelot, meet with Her Majesty Artoria Pendragon, one more time, he replied calmly. His eyes narrowed, his voice dripping with scorn. To meet her? You dare show your face here after we told you to never come back? Stand down, Sir Agravian. Now is not the time to let your anger take control, and you know that what happened that day wasn't his fault. Arthur's voice interjected, firm yet measured. Wasn't my fault? Kyo whispered, confused. Arthur's gaze shifted between Agravian and Kyo, a clear indication that he would not tolerate any further escalation. Forgive me, your majesty, but that is one order I will not follow. As Agravian's hostile gaze bored into him, Kyo's thoughts raised. He realized the severity of the situation, recognizing the anger and tensions that radiated from his every word, and then, in a sudden turn of events, the atmosphere shifted. Agravian's presence seemed to expand, an aura of authority that exuded power. Kyo felt killing intent saturating the room, a sensation that sent a shiver down his spine. He felt a mixture of confusion and alarm as Agravian's power swept over the room occupants. Look out! Screamed Shiro. They were bounded by black chains surrounding the entire room. Iron commandment! Kyo and Shiro were the only ones that were not caught. The king and the knights struggled to break free from the chains, but it was no use. Shiro chanted, Trace on, creating two short swords in his hands and took a fighting stance, his face Agravian preparing to attack. He yells at Kyo, who was frozen from the knight's deadly aura. Run! Get out of here! Go find her! The boy broke out of his stupor, his instincts kicking in. He nodded his heart, pounding his mixture of fear and determination. Without wasting a moment, Kyo turned and dashed towards the exit, his every step fueled by urgencies and adrenaline. Behind him, he would hear the clashes of swords, the grunts of exertion, and the crackling of energy as Shiro confronted Agravian. What do you think you are doing, Agravian? Shiro asked, enraged. Agravian's eyes bored into Shiro's with a cold intensity, his lips curving into a distasteful smirk. What I should have done all those years ago. Agravian's sinister aura radiated from him like a palpable force. As he and Shiro stood locked in a tense confrontation within the throne room of Camelot, their gazes locked, each man's resolve burning brightly in their eyes. With a sudden burst of movement, Agravian lunged forward, his sword swinging in a deadly arc aimed at Shiro's midsection. Shiro's reflex kicked in, and he deftly parried the strike, the clash of their weapons ringing through the air. The two warriors danced around each other, their movements a blur of speed and precision. Shiro's swords glinted as he struck with calculated strikes, each blow aimed at exploiting Agravian's weakness. Agravian in turn responded with vicious slashes and thrusts, his movements fueled by a fervent determination to end a boy's life. The clash of their energies created a shockwave that rippled through the room. Slash marks appeared on the walls and the floor. The air crackled with the intensity of their battle as sparks of energy erupted with each clash of their swords. Shiro's face was that of concentration, his eyes never leaving Agravian's. He read the knight's movements, anticipating his strikes and countering with a fluid grace that showcased his final years of training and experience. Agravian's attacks were relentless, his strikes fueled by a dark fervor that seemed to feed off his hatred. He pressed Shiro with an unrelenting assault. As the battle raged on, the room itself seemed to bear witness to their clash, the walls and pillars trembling from the sheer force of their blows. With a swift motion, Shiro disengaged from Agravain, creating some distance between them. With his hand stretched out, a bow and many swords appeared as if conjured by his will. He took one of the swords and notched it into his bow. Agravain's eyes narrowed as he observed Shiro's actions. Before he could react, Shiro released the sword with pinpoint accuracy. It whizzed through the air, a streak of deadly precision aimed straight for the knight. Agravain's reflexes were sharp, and he deflected the projectile with the swift motion of his sword. The sword clattered to the ground, but Shiro was already in motion, releasing a salvo of swords in rapid succession. Agravain's expression shifted from surprise to focused determination. He raised his sword in a swift arc, deflecting the swords just as he had done with the first. But Shiro was far from over. Shiro conjured a sword that had the form of a drill, the sword glowing with a blinding light. Khalad Balk! It soared through the air, its brilliance illuminating the room. Agravain's eyes widened as he realized the potency of his attack. He used his chains to form a shield, but the energy proved too much to handle. The impact created an explosion, engulfing Agravain in a blinding radiance. The shockwave rippled through the hall, shaking the very foundation of Camelot. When the light faded finally, Agravain staggered back, his armor scorched and battered. Shiro seized the opportunity, his swords gleaming as he closed the distance between them. A wicked smirk curved Agravain's lips as Shiro charged at him. In a swift and unexpected move, he sank into the floor himself. He formed himself, seemingly merging with the same stone. His presence became ethereal, as if he had become a part of Camelot itself. "Come on out, you bastard!" Shiro yelled. Agravain's voice reverberated through the castle. "I have wasted too much time dealing with the like of you. The accursed child must pay for what he has done. I swear if you lay one hand on him, you'll regret it." Margaret's voice cut out through the tensions, her fiery resolve evident. With no response from the knight, the chains tightened around the room, locking the king, the knights and Shiro inside. The young man rushed the door, slashing with his blades, not a scratch visible, realizing that breaking free was nearly impossible. Shiro shifted his focus. He abandoned his initial attempts to free himself and instead rushed towards the others who were captured by the chains. His movements were swift and precise as he reached the others, assessing their situation. Meanwhile, on the other side of the castle, Kyo's heart raced as he dashed through the corridors of the castle. His instincts on high alert, the weight of the situation bore down on him, driving him to push past his limits. Agravain's ominous presence lingered like a shroud, a constant reminder of the danger that surrounded him. Using his sixth sense, he tries to locate the one he is searching for. "Kyo!" Ark yelled out. The boy's body responded automatically, twisted around as he summoned a sword breaker and a double-edged sword into his hands. The metallic clashes of chains filled the air as he deflected the incoming chains from all directions. The sound of clapping resonated through the halls, its echoes bouncing off the stone walls, creating an eerie symphony. Kyo broke into a cold sweat, his attention immediately drawn to the source of the sound before him. Multiple chains burst forth from the ground like serpents, their metallic link writhing and weaving in a symmetrical dance. In a surreal display, the chains seemed to take on a life of their own, circulating and around themselves in an intricate patterns. The very air seemed to vibrate with their energy, creating an otherworldly aura that sent shivers down Kyo's spine. As he watched, his heightened sense alerted. A feeling of foreboding settled over him. From the midst of the chains a figure emerged, a figure that was all too familiar. Agravain stood there, his face stretched out, a look of disdain. Wicked puppeteer controlling the very chains that encircled him. But he was not alone. As the chains continued their movements, more figures emerged from their midst. Black knights, clad in armor as dark as the night, materialized one by one. Their presence was menacing, their eyes cold and devoid of emotion. The voice filled the tensions in the air, the intense aura of danger that surrounded them. The chains and the Black Knights were an extension of Agravain's power and a manifestation of his will. The situation had taken a dire turn, and Kyo's heart pounded in his chest. He knew that he was facing a murderous enemy, one who would stop at nothing to achieve his goal. Without a word, the men signaled his pawns to attack. The Black Knights moved with a calculated precision, their movements synchronized and efficient. They advanced on Kyo's with a deadly intent, their weapons poised to strike. The clinking of their armor filled the air, a haunting symphony that echoed through the hall. Kyo's grip tightened on his sword as he braced himself for the onslaught. He could feel the presence of each Black Knight, their individual energies, distinct yet melding into a unified force. His heightened senses worked in overdrive as he assessed the situation, calculating his moves into a split-second precision. As the first knight lunged forward, Kyo reacted with lightning speed. His blades clashed against the knight's sword, steel ringing against steel. He parried the attack and swiftly countered with a well-aimed strike, his movements fluid and graceful. The clash of weapons reverberated through the air, a testament to the intensity of their battle. But there were more adversaries to contend with. Kyo's senses were kicked into overdrive, allowing him to anticipate the movements of the other Black Knights. He ducked and weaved and sidestepped their attacks, each motion executed within an unyielding drive. His blades became an extension of himself, a lethal instruction that met every threat head on. The next Black Knight lunged forward with a massive double-headed battle axe. The blade glinted ominously in the dim light of the hall as it swung down with a resounding force. The boy's instincts kicked in, and he sidesteps to strike just in time, feeling the rush of the air as the axe narrowly missed him. With a swift movement, he parried the knight's follow-up swing, their weapons clashing in a shower of sparks. To his left, another Black Knight, wielding a pair of slender, curved scimitars, with their deadly elegance contrasted with the brute force of the battle axe, and the knight moved with an agile grace that belied their armor form. Their attacks came in a rapid succession, a flurry of slashes that forced Kyo to focus on both defenses and evasions. He deflected their strikes with precision, his sword forming a defensive barrier against the onslaught of blades. A fourth Black Knight advanced with a long polearm, its bladed tip gleaming dangerously. The polearm's reach gave the knights an advantage, and they utilized it to keep Kyo at bay, forcing him to maintain a distance. With each sweeping strike, the polearm's blade cut through the air like a deadly sweep, and Kyo had used his ability to dodge and weave, all while seeking an opening to counterattack. Meanwhile, a fifth Black Knight brandished a pair of heavy maces, their spikes heads poised to deliver crushing blows. The knight's movements were deliberate, each strike calculated to exploit openings in Kyo's defense. The mace swung with a deceptive speed, forcing Kyo to remain vigilant as he parried and deflected the attacks, his muscles straining against the force of impact. The final Black Knight held a slender rapier, a weapon of fineness and precision. Unlike the brute strength of the others, this knight relied on agility and quick, precise strike. Their rapier danced through the air of a calculated elegance, proving for weakness in Kyo's defense. He met their strikes with calculating precision, his sword play a delicate balance between offense and defense. You don't need to hold back. They are not NPCs, puppets, extensions of Agrabah's power. Burst through, Kyo, Ark yelled. On it. I was just building up energy and waiting for the right moment. The knights surround Kyo on all sides, rushing in to strike. Together, Kyo released the two short swords and summoned a two-handed greatsword that resembled a dragon's wing. In its place, with a swift, fluent motion, the blade glowed as he sprung it a full 360 degrees with full force. The blade radiated power as he swung it, a brilliant arc of energy trailing in its wake. With a mighty force, he cleaved through the ranks of the Black Knights, his blade cutting through their forms as if they were mere illusions. The clash was a whirlwind of steel, Kyo's every strike a testament to his growth as a warrior. The Black Knights fell one by one, their forms dissipating into shadows as the power that bound them was shattered. The hall echoed with the clash of his blade and the fading remnants of the Black Knight's existence. However, amidst the chaos of battle, Agravain's malevolent intent remained. In a sudden twist, the knight lunged forward, his grip like a vice. As he seized the back of Kyo's head, the force was crushing, and Kyo's head was slammed into the floor with a sickening impact. Pain radiated through his skull as Agravain's relentless assaults continued. He started by placing his foot on the boy's head and started stomping with full force. Each stomp felt like a hammer blow, smashing his head into the ground and leaving an indent in the stone. Ark's voice resounded not only within Kyo's mind, but also in the ears of Agravain, her words carrying an earnest plea, a plea for mercy and reason amidst the chaos. Agravain, stop! This has gone too far! You're killing him! Stop this madness! Agravain reached out of his hands and grabbed the small fairy. Madness? No, this is retribution, a fitting end for a wretch like him, for the one who brought about our king's suffering. Agravain roared, his voice laced with malice. Kyo's voice trembled with both pain and confusion, struggling to gather his thoughts amidst the relentless assault on his senses. He managed to force the words out, his voice a weak and strained. What are you talking about? Agravain tossed Ark to the wall. He bent out and lifted Kyo by his neck, blood coming out of the boy's eyes, ears, nose, and mouth. You really don't remember, you little shit. Then let me tell you of your sin. You killed Artoria Pendragon, our king. Images flashed in his mind, fragmented recollections of a moment he couldn't fully grasp. Artoria's smile, trailing the time spent together, and a black arrow piercing her chest, all shown by the revelation of the Agravain had just delivered. No, Kyo managed to choke out, his voice barely audible. I can't. It can't be true. You're lying. Agravain's grip tightened around Kyo's neck, his fingers dipping into the boy's flesh. His resentment was cold and merciless, a stark contrast to the turmoil raging within Kyo's heart. Oh, but it's true, Agravain scoffed. You may have forgotten, or perhaps you have chosen to bury the past, but I have seen it all. The betrayal, the downfall, the agony of our king as he fell into eternal slumber because of you. Kyo became unresponsive, his body limp and battered, hanging from Agravain's grip. Pathetic, he said as he released his hold with a devastating kick. The boy was sent into a wall, then ricocheted into the ceiling, to the other wall, and to the floor. Kyo soared midair before the next impact. A figure moved with an astonishing speed. A strong arms reached out, catching Kyo's battered body before it could collide with the unforgiving surface. The impact of the catch was gentle, though still forceful, as Kyo was cradled against a broad chest. Lady Barghest! The fairy cried out as she flew to them, tears dripping from her face. A giant woman clad in armor stands firm, holding the boy in her arms, looking at him with much concern. Then she sets her sights on the knight that caused his pain. Anger exploded in her eyes. I was sent by Her Majesty to investigate the commotion inside the castle, and what do I find? You, Sir Agravain, attacking Kyo with the intent to kill. Have you lost your goddamn mind? Black dog, if you are here, then that means she is not far behind. Agravain's voice dripped with scorn as he addressed the giant armored woman. His sword was laced with a mixture of disdain and unease, a recognition of the formidable opponent he is facing. However, his proclamation was soon followed by a sudden surge of magical energy, a brilliant flash of blue light that enveloped the area. In the wake of the magical display, two figures materialized, their presence commanding attention. Two women emerged from the arcane radiance, their forms exuding an air of power and nobility. They stood as a stark contrast to the chaos that had unfolded moments ago. One of the women bore a regal aura. Her posture and demeanor radiated authority. The other carries a chaotic personality, yet keeping herself serene with imperial energy. Agravain's eyes blazed with anger and frustration as he caught sight of the Morgan Le Fay. Morgan, he spat, his voice laced with malice. Without wasting a moment, Morgan issued her orders, her voice carrying an undeniable authority. Vargas, leave Kyo to me. Deal with Agravain, she commanded, her words leaving no room for dispute. Vargas nodded in solemn agreement, her gaze locking onto Agravain's with an intensity that promised a fierce confrontation. The knight captain drew his sword and summoned more pawns, preparing for the battle. The giantess drew her sword and rushed at them. The sounding of the swords and chains flickered through the hall. As Vargas engaged in battle, Morgan turned her focus to the injured young man before her. Kyo's body lay broken and battered, his breathing shallowed and labored. Morgan cradled Kyo in her lap, her expression softening as she gazed down at his bruised and broken body, with a tender yet resolute expression, offering him a moment of respite amidst the turmoil, her heart filled with concern and determination. Kyo. Morgan's voice was a soothing melody, her eyes reflecting a mixture of concern and affectionate instinct. You've endured much, my dear husband. She turned to Ark, the fairy who had been by Kyo's side. Ark, do you have any healing potions left? Ark nodded, producing a vial of healing potions with a sense of urgency. Morgan accepted it with a nod of gratitude. She attempted to feed the potion to Kyo, but the extent of his injuries made it impossible for him to swallow. In a swift decision, Morgan took the potion into her own mouth, her lips curving into a determination yet gentle smile. Leaning down, she pressed her lips to Kyo's, transferring the healing potion. With great care, she whispered soothing words to him, her touch a comforting embrace. Amidst the chaos, the magic of potion began to weave its healing energy through Kyo's body, alleviating his pain and restoring some semblance of vitality. What are you doing? Sullying your lips with this boy? It's just wrong, the young red-haired girl said to the sorceress. Bao Si, calm down, Morgan replied, a playful glint in her eyes. I'm just administering first aid. My, are you perhaps jealous, my sweet daughter? The princess sputtered in response, her cheeks flushing crimson. She vehemently denied her mother's teasing accusations, though the unease and jealousy that had flared within her were difficult to ignore. Meanwhile the sounds of a battle had reached an end, signaling Barhet's decisive victory over Agravain and his puppets. The knight, defeated on his knees, was a shattered and broken figure. Barhes raised her sword, poised for the final strike that would end it all. However, in a dramatic turn of events, her sword halted in its descent. King Ardor, standing resolute between them, had intervened. His commanding presence silenced the chaos, and his words held the weight of authority. Stand down, Lady Barhes. It's over. In the aftermath of the battle, as the dust settled and the echoes of conflict faded, the focus shifted to Kyo. His battered form remained in Morgan's lap, the healing potion gradually taking effect. The pain began to recede, and consciousness beckoned him back to the world. Oh, my head, he said, groaning in pain. Well, good morning, Kyo. Enjoyed your nap? You caused quite a commotion, my boy, said the man in the white robes. Oh God, why does the first person I speak to after waking up with a massive headache has to be you, Merlin? The boy said. Don't be like that. You'll make Big Brother cry. Since when did you become a delinquent? The mage retorts. Where is everyone? He asked. They are gathered by her side. Come, time is of the essence, Merlin said enigmatically. Kyo followed Merlin through the hidden passage of Camelot, his mind a full of questions. The secret location Merlin led him to was a chamber shrouded in an aura of profound reverence. At its center lay Arturia Pendragon, the once and future king, encased in an ethereal slumber. The knights of the Round Table and the Fey Knights, in their resplendent armor, stand by, watchful and solemn around her. Shiro and Mia stood closest to her, alongside Morgan, face full of concern. What is this? Agravain said that she was dead. He spoke. To some this is true death, but this she is in a coma. 5 years she has been like this. Agravain spoke half-truth, my young friend. The mage replied, his voice low and filled with gravitas. Kyo's thoughts raced as he tried to process the enormity of the situation. 5 years? What happened? Merlin began, his voice carrying the weight of ages. There are truths that have remained hidden from you, buried deep within the recesses of your mind. It was a new and terrifying experience. Chaos possessed you, but it was not of your own making. You must remember and you must understand that it was never your fault. Everyone nodded in agreement. Kyo's brows furrowed as he tried to make sense of Merlin's cryptic words. Flashes of memories, fragmented, flickering in his mind. An old man, a sense of foreboding, and something being given to him. A burden that had turned him into a monster. I remember, he said, his voice trembling with the weight of revelation. An old man. He gave me something that changed me. Kisur Seilrek Schweinork, that sly old fox, Morgan said with a hint of disdain. Kyo walked up to the sleeping king. He placed his hand upon her cheek, and tears started to fall from his face. It may not have been my fault, but it was May hands that committed this sin. Her light still shines, and the day you wake up, I'll make up the 5 years we missed. Kyo placed his hand on his heart and spoke. I promise you, to everyone present here, that I will not let that thing control me ever again. As the group gradually departed the chamber, their footsteps fading away, Arturia's fingers started twitching once more, a hint of movement that held the promise of an awakening yet to come. As the weight of his words hung in the air, the scene shifted to a more light-hearted atmosphere. A going-away party for Kyo. Shiro and the others worked their skills in a bit of magic, making an assortment of foods and alcohols that they can enjoy, creating an atmosphere of celebration and camaraderie. Laughter and chatter filled the air as everyone gathered to bid Kyo farewell. It was a moment of unity, a testament to the bonds that have formed amidst trials and challenges. Kyo was surrounded by all of his teachers and friends, cheering him on, some with tears in their eyes, others blessing him and giving him advice to survive. A small girl with the purple hair and 2 horns protruding from her forehead. My, that little boy. I used to tease him all grown up, she said with a mischievous glint in her eye. She poured a cup of alcohol and handed it to him. Have a drink with me. I have been aging this for a while. Thank you, Shuten. Kyo chugged the drink in momentary bliss. He stood calling everyone's attention. To all my teachers, my friends, and my comrades, I can't thank you enough for everything you've done for me. I would have been the person I am today without your guidance and support. As I embark on this new journey, I carry your wisdom with me and carrying you all in my heart. I promise to make you proud. Cheers! With the cheers of his friends and mentors still ringing in his ears, Kyo stepped forward, ready to embark on the next chapter of his journey. Leonardo opened a shimmering portal before him. Its swirling energies held the promise of new adventures, challenges, and discoveries. Kyo turned back at his friends, a bittersweet smile on his face. Until we meet again, he yelled out, his voice filled with determination. Without hesitation, he stepped through the portal, leaving behind the throne. Kyo was ready to face the unknown with courage and the lessons he had learned. Once he stepped out of the portal to the other side, his body was hit with a sudden shock. He writhed in pain. What is happening to me? He cried out. Error, initiating regression. After falling to the floor, unconscious, a man walked out of the shadows of the moonlit room. Well, this is curious.